Alright guys, so I came to the park to do my workout real quick. I got good news. Dog got returned to his owner just fine. No harm, no foul. I found him after trying a couple houses, so got lucky with that. Little cutie, by the way. But anyway, so you guys missed me going to the grocery store, having a shake of peanut butter and jelly, cleaning up the house a little bit, and then coming here. I thought today, for fun, what I would show you guys is how to do and explain why there are intelligent calisthenic movements, and then of course there are stupid, damaging calisthenic movements. And I'm going to show you guys the intelligent calisthenic movements for each one of the muscle groups for arm day. So we're going to go over bicep, tricep, front delt, rear delt, lateral delt, and upper trap. And we're just going to be using bars and body weight basically. So long story short, without getting too much into it, if you guys want, just watch my actual lectures and videos. But again, long story short, muscles pull insertion to origin in a straight line. You have to think about the direction of force or load. Gravity, in this case, the load is your body weight. Typically, when you're doing calisthenic movements, it's very difficult to isolate muscle groups. That's why I like them, provided they're intelligently done calisthenic movements, not stupid ones which damage your body. And there is a big difference. So anyways, we're going to get started with biceps, and that's because it probably has a lengthy explanation. When you are doing pull-ups or chin-ups, your bicep is engaged, but only a very small amount. Now, without getting into too much detail, your forearm is a neutral lever, provided it is parallel with gravity. Now, when you're doing a chin-up, your forearm is essentially neutral for essentially the entire movement. The only time it's not neutral is the middle portion of the movement. The reason for this is because essentially your torso is leaning forward at an angle, which is causing your elbows to dip from here to here slightly. Now this is engaging the bicep, of course, so there's a small range of motion in which the bicep is engaged. So can you do chin-ups and pull-ups to build your biceps? I mean, sure, but it's a terribly ineffective way to do so. It trains them in a very poor range of motion, and overall it's just, I would rate it like a 2, maybe a 1 for biceps growth. What you can do instead is a modified chin-up. I'm going to show you another variation you can do as well. So the modified chin-up is very simple. You guys might know it as a head banger, but you're staying within a certain range of movement. You're using your body weight by leaning your torso backwards, and you're actually using your feet to rest on the supports at which the chin-up bar is held to. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Following that, we're going to get into triceps. When it comes to triceps, pretty simple to understand. With triceps, it's the exact opposite of the biceps. The bicep goes like this, the tricep goes like this. You guys already probably know what I'm going to be demonstrating for triceps, but it's a very simple movement. It's this. The only difference is loading, how much you want to load it, how strong you are, etc. is just going to be determined by the angle of your torso. The more extreme the angle, the easier it's going to be. The more vertical you are, the easier. The more horizontal, the harder. The more horizontal and longer, harder. Again, you guys get the idea. It's very simple to understand these physical things. Moving forward, front delt. Depending how you do a push-up determines what muscle groups you're targeting. This push-up is not the same as this push-up. These are two completely different muscle groups being worked. Now, of course, when you're doing a push-up, you're targeting many muscle groups, everything from your quads to your core. But the thing is, they're being targeted one particular way, only isometrically. I would think everyone can agree it's very easy to do a push-up. It's not hard to hold that isometric plank position. Therefore, we know those muscle groups are not growing. It's isometric. Isometric is the lowest form of muscle contraction. However, it is very good for your fascial system. This is why we like these kinds of things. But regardless, we'll simply be doing front delt push-ups. And you guys already know the front delt is like a little bicep right here, and is responsible for raising the upper arm. So when you're doing your push-ups, either like me on your fists, belly button, it's going to look like this. And again, depending on position of torso, is going to determine loading of the front deltoid. For rear deltoids, we're going to be doing a rear deltoid row, essentially. Once again, just using the bars. It's very simple to imagine what that will look like. Once again, the more horizontal your body or perpendicular with gravity, the heavier the load. The more vertical you are or closer to parallel with gravity, the lighter the load is going to be. Muscles only pull insertion to origin in a straight line, and if you know these kinds of basic things about the resistance curve as well, it all comes together pretty simply. Moving on to upper traps. Upper traps in this particular case, my body weight is going to be what I'm using. So if they pull insertion to origin like this, they're on the back of my neck, top of my scapula and clavicle, and they go like this. Well, how am I going to use my body weight? Well, I'm going to go upside down, obviously. Now, once I'm upside down, I got 200, well, as of this morning, 202 pounds to go up and down, targeting my traps. Lovely. Just make sure that you maintain that, 10 to 15 degree forward lean, and that forward lean is obviously accomplished by the arms simply just going slightly in front of you. That's all it is. Very simple. Just like if you had dumbbells, you would do this. I'm going to do the same thing just while I'm upside down and stabilize myself with my feet. Then when we get to the lateral deltoid, I won't spoil the fun, but there's multiple ways to do it, one of which I'll just tell you. Bring a bag to the park with you, or a dumbbell, or whatever, and if it's a bag filled up with dirt or rocks or something, so it's 10-15 pounds, and then use the bag. You don't have to carry anything, just a bag with you. Bring a dumbbell with you, put it in your backpack. Take a rucking walk to the park. Or you can use your body weight. Now the body weight, I'll show you in a second. I'm actually not going to be here to demonstrate it because I forgot to bring a towel. Instead, I'll be back at the gym demonstrating it with a towel. I apologize. I was in kind of a hurry to get here. But anyways, it's the same thing whether I'm here or back at the gym. It's just body weight exercise. You guys will see what that looks like. But let's get into the first exercise now.
I was born to be a fighter, had these dreams and desires. I would be something better, energy, got a fire in my soul to keep burning. A pain that keep, a curse is emerging. Feel the thirst, keep on working, I won't stop, I won't quit. To the top of this shit, I get lost in the work. Sweat dripping, not a bitch, I get mad, I get pissed. I get after this shit, hit the gas, feel the grip. Adrenaline, never miss, I'm not patient, but I've learned to embrace it. Cause I've been working, I've been waiting, never complacent. Cause I'm so close, I could taste it. Wanted away from everything I've been chasing. I'm honest and I promise that I got this. I'm launching, all I've wanted has been exhausting. I'll teach you how to harness, control the conscious. You got this, yeah you got this, you gotta want it. Shot, life ain't fair. Are you gonna win or will you play scared? I will not stop, I am prepared to get to the top, yeah you must be rare.
Alright guys, just got back from the park. Now, not to belabor the point, but once again, exercise, intelligent, efficient exercise is all about education and knowledge of basic physics principles, how they interact with your neurology and your biochemistry. Now, very briefly, I've been over this before, but the resistance curve. In order for a muscle to be targeted efficiently, with most efficacy, you're going to want it to be starting. Just take a look at the bicep. The lever used on the muscle, the actual active lever, needs to be as close to parallel with gravity as possible. You don't want it really doing anything. You want it neutral. You want the muscle lengthened in this position, but not over-lengthened, because then you have active insufficiency, and not over-contracted to begin with, because then you have passive insufficiency. You want the bicep to just be resting on a neutral lever at the proper length. At the midway portion of the movement, midway, the lever should be close to a 100% active lever, or with the weight being lifted as long or as far as possible from the body. Does this make sense? Then, towards the conclusion, once again, the active lever is very close to neutral with gravity, if not neutral with gravity. If you wanted to finish the bicep perfectly, you would actually go like this, in which case the forearm would be neutral with gravity at the conclusion. Now, all muscles follow this curve, and the lateral deltoid is no exception. As most of you know, most people do these kinds of very stupid exercises for their lateral deltoids. The reason they do them is because it's monkey see, monkey do. It's what everyone talks about, and it's what everyone does. However, this is where the lateral deltoid is fully contracted. And this is where the lateral deltoid has a 100% active lever. This is supposed to be basically at the conclusion of the movement, which is why this is acceptable for a low cable, because now you're changing the actual source and direction of force, which is why cables are good if you're doing it standing like this. However, if you're using a dumbbell, you would need to be lying on your side on the ground like this, and at the conclusion of the movement, it would be like this, where once again the lever is very close to neutral with gravity, and at the beginning portion the muscle is lengthened the appropriate distance, and once again the lever is as long as possible, and it's going to be starting with the greatest amount of load right here. Now, that's with the dumbbell, and that's with cables. How about body weight? Well, pretty simple. If you already know what I just went over, then you know if you're using your body weight, this is going to be the load, everything that's not on this arm. That seems like a lot of load, right? So we want to cut it back. So at the conclusion of the movement, you want it to look like this, so basically a mostly neutral, or as you already know, basically inactive load. So because my body weight is the load, you can think of this as being a weighted domino, a very heavy weighted domino. My lateral deltoid is attached to a little stick on the side of the domino, and my lateral deltoid is going to be responsible for taking that domino from a basically parallel position with gravity into a leaning position. So now there's load placed upon the lateral deltoid. In fact, the most load, because I have the most lean in this position, where once again the lateral deltoid needs the most load. And then I simply go on up to here, and guess what? That's a perfect lateral deltoid movement. Now, the caveat here is I can do it on my whiteboard because I'm sweaty and it's slippery. If I had something like coconut oil on, I could probably do this all day, but it would ruin my whiteboard. And you can't obviously do this at the park or outside. So what you do is you just get a towel and you wrap your elbow and meaty portion of the forearm, which is going to be resting on, say, a metal support, a metal pole. It doesn't matter, just something which is upright and is then slippery when you have something like a towel in between you and it. Depending on how much you lean, like I can't even do this because it's too much load on my lateral deltoid. But if I move my feet closer, I can kind of do it. And of course it gets easier at the end of the movement because, once again, this is the load and the lever. So anyways, I hope that makes sense, guys. But that is how you intelligently train your body, understanding these kinds of basic principles and then applying them in your workouts. You don't need a gym, you don't need machines, you don't need hundreds of pounds. You need to understand lever magnification and intelligent training. This is how you actually make results. So once you add to that, correcting your breathing patterns, correcting your microbiome, correcting your sleep hygiene, correcting your hormones and your macros and micros, well, you'll be an entirely new person in a year, guys. In 2 years, think of what you can do with a focused attempt on your health. And once again, a reminder, I know a lot of you are lifting weights to lose fat, or you're doing it to build muscle. That's great. But think about your future too. If you're building muscle and destroying your spine in an irreparable way, because you like doing squats and deadlifts, that's not very productive, is it? Just because you now have big quads and glutes. Spending 2 or 3 hours in the gym every week, kind of a waste of time. What else could you be doing with that time? In an entire month, I spent 6 hours exercising in my gym. And that's outside too, those are my workouts. It's how long it was total. So just think about all the extra time and what you could use it for. Making money, building a business, creating better relationships, learning more things. Just think about your future, not just let me lose fat, let me build muscle. There are correct and efficient ways to do things, and you should be doing them with your future self in mind.